Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa la. Ya Rabb, subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I think everyone was given a piece of paper and a pen. If you don't have it or you ate it, you could take out one and a pen. So we'll wait. Just take out a piece of paper and a pen. You're like, oh no, I thought I was done with classes for today. I'm a teacher and instructor as well, so that's my primary role. Okay, once I see that everyone is ready, with a piece of paper and a pen, or pencil, or crayons, I don't know what you use, but up to you. Okay, very nice. Okay, so this is what you are going to do. On that piece of paper, not a piece, I see someone pulling out like small little pieces. You need a whole sheet of paper. You need it for other sides, for other purposes throughout the night. But for today, we're using, right now rather, we're using the one side of the paper, okay? And on that side of the paper, I wish we had something to write. I guess we do. Shucks. Oh. Old school. This is City College. All right, so, I have to say this. All right. That's not how you start with a good relationship. City College is amazing, guys. So, oh, very nice. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Okay, so on that piece of paper, so imagine this is the piece of paper here. Let's see. Okay, so you're going to have the first column, and on this column, you're going to write down just initial, okay, of 5 people that you trust the most. 5 people in your life. You don't have to write their name fully, just initials will do. 5 people that you trust the most. Now, please avoid family members. Of course, I know you trust your mom and your dad. No family members. 5 people that you trust the most. Sister had a question. Any way you want to do it, that's fine. As long as we have a sort of a chart. Okay, there's no right way. I see we have a perfectionist over there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a piece of paper and we're going to write 5 names of 5 people. Initials will do. That you trust the most. No family members, please. No family members. No, well, I would avoid family members as much as possible. Okay? 5 people that you trust the most. This shouldn't take too long. If it's taking too long, then you don't have 5 people. Get some friends. No, 5 people that you trust the most. Okay? Alright. Looks like we are doing good. I think half of the people have a 5 name, or at least 2 name, 3 name. Very nice. Let's get it done. 5 people. Not so difficult. Okay. If you don't have 5 people at this point, raise your hand. Oh wow, okay. You're really thinking. You're like, I hate her. So we gotta know what you're doing. 5 people that you trust the most. Very simple. That you trust the most. Okay. That you trust that, you have relationship, that you do things together, whether it be academic, career, whether it be fun, whether it be vacation, whatever the case might be. 5 people that you trust the most. Let's try one more time. Who is not done with 5 people? Okay, only 2 people. Very nice. Okay, so we'll move on to the next part of this. Now you draw another column. And now you're going to write these things, okay? So there will be a few columns. I'll tell you what the columns are. Okay, so you're going to have columns. Now, these columns now represent a few things. Gender. Okay? Then it represents their race or ethnicity. Okay? Then it represents their age, education. Do they have any form of disability? Yes or no? Are they? And finally, how religious are they? 1 through 10, and you define that for yourself. 1 through 10, how religious are they? So you take these 5 people, and I want you to just write down their gender, their race, ethnicity, their age, their education level, their religiosity, and are they disabled, disability, mental illness, anything like that that you know of? Yes or no? Okay? So this is a yes or no question. This is a 1 through 10 question. Rest are, you write it out. Okay? 5 people and you define who they are. Yes? What's after? What's after education? Oh, do they have any form of disability, whether it be physical or psychological disability? Yes or no? Just yes or no question. And of course, their religiosity level, 1 through 10. 1 being not religious at all, 10 being they're in the masjid all day. No, I mean 10 being they're very religious. Yes, question. Sure. In that case, actually, I will write down that they're a different religion. I'll write that down. Yeah. Okay. Anyone not clear what we're doing right now? Yes.
What if they're a different religion, but they're still religious?
I would still mark down just what religion they are and then how religious they are. Okay. If it's the same religion as yours, if they're Muslim, for vast majority of you, then you just put 1 through 10, okay? So again, their initials here, only 5 people that you trust the most, and then their gender, their race, ethnicity, their age, their education level, are they disabled in any way? Or do they have disability rather in any way? And last one being that how religious are they? Okay? Very simple, just fill it out. We're across each names. So your first person that you trust a lot is Ahmed, and so Ahmed, you fill out gender, your race, ethnicity, your age, and you go down the list, okay? For each person, each 5 people, you write down their information. Yes? So if they are undergraduate student, if they have no education, if they are PhD student, if they are high school, or some of you have friends, maybe they are working already and maybe they have certain amount of education. What is the education level? This is not a group work, folks. This is not a group work. The other person cannot give the answers. And there is no whole exam for this either. As these city college students. Okay. How are we doing? Who has at least 2-3 people filled up already? Oh, very good. Okay. Let's take a few minutes and wrap this up. Some people are having big discoveries, looks like. Okay. 5 people that you trust the most. Again, no family members. People that you have relationships with, people that you would do academic education, academic, or career-oriented things, or vacation, or play sports with, or hang out with, but people that you trust a lot, deeply. 5 people. How are we doing? Who is at least complete with, who's done it altogether? Very nice, okay, let's take 30 more seconds and finish up. Once you're done, you can put your pen and paper down, so I know you are done and you can look up. Very nice. Now, I want you to look at that list. And you begin to realize something, that every one of them are very similar. You have very little diversity in your top 5 trust circle. Most of you. Some of you I know, mashallah, very good. But most of you in your top 5 trust circle is your inner circle, right? So this is your sort of people you say hi to, you say salam to, level 1. Then you have level 2, maybe you work together 1 or 2 things. Then these are 5 people that you trust a lot. As you go down towards the people that you trust a lot, it tends to be people just like you. It tends to be usually people who are same gender as you, people who are same race and ethnicity as you, people same age group as you, same people with same education as you, people with same, if you don't have disability, they don't have disability. If you're this type of religious, they're probably that type of religious. And you begin to realize that you're pretty much in a bubble. You talk about your race, you talk about prejudice, you put up a nice quotation on Facebook, you call yourself social activist, but in your trust 5 circle, there isn't much diversity for most people. There isn't much diversity. And you might say, well, because I live in this group and I'm part of this, that's why. Well, what's stopping you? Especially if you're in New York City. It tells you that you are inclined towards people just like you. In your trust, when it comes to deep down trust, when it comes to life and death, people that you trust aren't so diverse. They're similar like you. Except, of course, there are a few of you who are here have exceptions. But most of you are similar. I want you to just, at this moment, rise for a second. Stand up. As we begin the night, as most of you know, you can put your pens, your papers down on top. Okay. So, most of you know that the way I work, I'm not your typical speaker. I don't like to lecture you, and I need everyone at a peak state. Peak state, means you're not on your phone, playing games like that over there. I just pointed a random person. You guys see it. Okay. So and you are really focused. So in order for us to do that, when I speak, in your ears there are these bones, and they vibrate, and then the signals are carried all the way to your head, and then it's processed. When I give a talk, I don't want your bones in your ears to vibrate. I need you to be fully engaged with your whole body. So what we need is everyone to be up, as we are. I think by this time everyone's up. Very nice. And then we need to engage our oxygen level in our body so that brain has enough oxygen to engage. This is not a shutdown time. This is a wake-up time. This is a really energized time. So we're going to take deep breaths. Some of you are runners here. You know how to take deep breaths. Some of you don't. You take breaths with your nose, in with your nose, out with your mouth. Okay? In with your nose, out with your mouth. You're going to get oxygen in your system so that you can actually focus for the next 1 hour when we discuss some amazing things. But we need to be at peak state. So in with your nose, out with your mouth. Okay? What we're going to do is when I raise my hand, you breathe in. If my hand stays on top, then you hold your breath. When it goes down, you exhale. Want the plan? Okay, ready? Ready? Just watch my hand. Watch my hand. Ready? Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Very nice. We're going to try a few more times. Ready? Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Very good. Deep breathing. It's very good for you. Inhale. Okay. Very nice. Hold. Exhale. Alrighty. Okay, have a seat. When the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the final messenger of Allah, when he and his community conquered Mecca, and the Muslims took over the holy city, and the companions, they were around the Kaaba, and it was time for Salah. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ called his muadhin, Bilal ibn Rabah, to get up on the Kaaba and give the adhan. Bilal ibn Rabah was someone who, to us Muslims, is very known. A Sahabi an amazing Sahabi, someone who we look up to, someone that we admire, someone that we talk about quite often. And this Bilal ibn Rabah, he was a slave in Mecca before Islam. And when he accepted Islam, he went through torture and punishment and torment by his owner, Umayy ibn Khalaf, to the point that he was punished, he was put on the hot sand, and he would be, stones, bricks would be put on top of his chest, and he would suffer, yet he would not give up his Islam. Just say, I don't believe in Mohammad, and I'll let you go. No. He was someone who suffered to the point that it came that Abu Bakr, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, after he saw that he was in so much suffering, he offered his owner to buy him off. And he said, I'll offer you 9 ounces of gold if you free Bilal. And he said, done. And once he gave me the ounce of gold to Umayy ibn Khalaf, he said, if you had asked me 1 ounce, if you had given me 1 ounce of gold, I would have given it to Bilal. He's worthless. And Abu Bakr told Umayy ibn Khalaf that if you had asked me 100 ounces, I would have given it to you. Our master Bilal. This Bilal now, who's a slave, now the story is turned. They're in Kaaba, and the Quraysh is watching, and he gets up onto the Kaaba and he is giving the adhan. And the blood is boiling of some of the mushriks of Quraysh, who used to step on Bilal, who used to curse at Bilal. Now they have to listen to him being on top of the most holiest site and give the adhan. Very difficult. Some of you sitting here and may go, whoa, they were uncomfortable, they were so racist. But some of us, if we were in that position, we too have our uncomfortability. Maybe we're not racist to see a black man leading a salah in a masjid. Maybe that doesn't happen. But maybe it does in some masjids. That the ethnicity of the imam makes a big difference. But maybe not that. But maybe we have other uncomfortabilities. For example, your best friend, you are Daisy, and your best friend that you hang out with, she marries a black brother. How comfortable are you with that? You say, mashallah, it's amazing, but inside there is a little bit of, what just happened? There is uncomfortability. You find that your family friend, he's choosing to be a stay-at-home dad. Oh, what's wrong? What's going on? You go take your car to a repair shop, and the head mechanic is a woman. You're like, I don't know about this. And some of you are laughing. Deep down, you say you're not racist, you say you're not prejudicial. But there are these thoughts and ideas, biases, uncomfortability. Maybe in your class, you have a classmate who is 20 or 30 years older than you. You're like, I don't know how to approach him. I don't know how to approach her. Makes you a little uncomfortable. Uncomfortability. I bring up Bilal not because today I'm going to talk about Bilal. I'm not going to. When we have discussion on racism, we put up these elegant discussions and stories about Bilal ibn Rabah, and we praise and we say about our glorious past. I'm not here to discuss that. When we talk about sexism, we bring up Aisha anha, we talk about different muhaddithat in our history, we talk about al-Banin. I will give you very nice stories of Fatima bint Mohammad from Andalus. Great, you'll be amazed, you'll be inspired. But that's not the point of tonight. The brother recited from Surah Hujurat. Reason why I brought this incident up from the seerah is because it is at this point when Bilal ibn Rabah got on the Kaaba and made the adhan, and the Quraysh had some issues. They felt uncomfortable, they felt a certain type of way, they felt in their heart it wasn't right that a black man is on top of the Kaaba, and it's so, I'm glad one of the Quraysh said that my father isn't alive today. Because he couldn't bear seeing this. And it is in this context that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakari wal untha, wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu, inna akramakum 'inda Allahi atqakum. What the brother recited. And that is the crux of our discussion tonight. It is at this point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the all humanity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed entire humanity and said, we have created you from male and female and made you into peoples and tribes so that you may know one another. And the most noble in the sight of Allah is the most righteous. We're going to go into word by word a few of the interesting points in this ayah. But before we do that though, I have to clarify some fundamentals. There are a lot of words on the flyer. Prejudice, racism, diversity, different words, stereotype, bias, and it's very confusing. Some of you have taken the Sociology 101 class, so some of you know a little bit. Some of you have taken that class, but you don't remember anything. So I have to give you a little backdrop as to what these words are, because I'm going to be using them throughout the night, and I don't want you to get confused. I want you to be really clear. So the first word for us to know is called stereotype. What is stereotyping? It's a cognitive function. So it's something that you think. It's a thought process. When you overgeneralize, and you overgeneralize idea about a group, for example. So you overgeneralize an idea about a group. Now, this could be negative or positive. It could be true or false. For example, all bats have wings. That's true generalization. All bats do have wings. That may be one, we found one. But all bats do have wings. That's pretty true. You could say, you know what, these are books. These are fruits. We do that naturally. Naturally, as human beings, we stereotype. It's part of who we are. But some stereotypes aren't true. So we say all snakes are dangerous. That's a stereotype a child may make based on what he saw. But it's not necessarily true. And then, as we grow older, other stereotypes come into the picture. Things like, girls are not good at sports. Now that's a stereotype. Or, guys are messy and unclean. Or, all Mexicans are illegal. Or, all Muslims are terrorists. All Jews are greedy. All Asians are good at math. We begin to put together some stereotypes and we put people into boxes. Non-hijabis must be not close to Islam. Or all Salafis just talk about bid'ah all day. All Tabligis just bother you and knock on your door. Even if you think I'm too explicit, then just wait. Alright, so and so we begin to stereotype and put people into boxes. I remember at a masjid, I'm not going to name whose masjid, obviously. There was a black brother. He came into the masjid and he was asking some of the folks, where's the imam? Where's the imam? And this one brother said, brother, we don't give donations. Please, you have to go fill a form. First thing he said. And this black brother was a PhD professor. He said, it's a black person come to the masjid asking for the imam. Must mean he wants money. That's the stereotype that we made. You see, stereotypes oftentimes, even if it's true and good. For example, you could say, you know what? All Asians are good at math. Okay, that's a good stereotype for the Asians. But stereotypes like these often hold the current power structure in place. Okay, that got a little confusing. Let me explain it. So basically, if you say that, you know what, guys are strong, or guys are good at sports, then what you have done is now you have established what's already been the norm and the power structure in the society. So even if it's good, and you say, you know what, traditional girls are amazing. That's a very good thing to say. But then now, what that does is that affects the narrative of the current power structure. So even if it's good, it's doing harm. Even if it's good, it's doing harm. It will make much more sense as we go throughout the night. Okay, that's the first word, stereotype. Okay, second word. Second word is on the board, prejudice. Prejudice now, see, stereotype was your thought. So you stereotyped and put people in the boxes. Now, prejudice is now you have a feeling about it. So you put you in a box, you made some categories, now you have some feelings towards that group based on the group's affiliation. So I don't even know this brother, but if I know that he's in this group in my head, I'm going to feel some type of way about him based on his affiliation. I don't know him, I haven't talked to him, I don't know his father, I don't know his mother, I haven't really interacted with him. But I don't care. I'm just going to go into my box of the stereotypes and biases and pull up my file and say, you know what, these groups are like this, so I'm going to start to feel same way about you. Doesn't matter what. So this brother in the masjid, even though he never interacted with this PhD brother, who's a professor, but because in his mind the stereotype was, if they're coming, is this black, coming to an imam, asking money, must be a beggar. And so automatically he has certain feeling, brother, please, don't bother. Automatically he felt reluctant, he felt annoyed. Automatic feeling, never interacted with the brother. Automatic prejudice. That's the feeling that you have. Feelings like hijabis are arrogant. And maybe a sister who doesn't wear hijab may feel that way about another sister. It's a feeling that you have. Okay, that's prejudice. Now we got stereotype, prejudice. Number 3 now is called discrimination. When you take your stereotype and then you feel something about it, prejudice, and that leads to action, the action now is called discrimination. The action is discrimination. So you could be prejudiced and not be discriminatory. You could be prejudiced but not be discriminatory. Or you could not be prejudiced, it's still discriminate. So a child learned a curse word about an ethnic slur, and he would say it in the playground. He's not prejudiced, but he learned it. So he's discriminating, but he's not prejudiced. So you follow me? You got stereotype, prejudice, and discrimination. And one biggest form, obviously, of discrimination is racism. And this racism is discrimination on steroids. When you have is institutionalized, when power structure is added onto it, then you have what we have in this country that we're dealing with. We systemize racism. Now tonight, one thing for obvious, maybe it's not obvious, but I'll make it obvious. Number 1, I'm not a social scientist. Neither am I a very good social activist. So what am I doing here? Well, what interests me are people. Because I'm interested in why people do what they do. I'm a therapist, clinical psychology, that's what I like doing. And so my focus tonight is not about racism. I'm sorry. Because I am not African American, and I can never tell you what it's like to be a black young man on the street being pulled over by a cop. I can't tell you that. I cannot tell you how it feels to be a hijabi sister at nighttime getting out of class, getting looks on the street. I can't tell you that. I'm not a woman wearing hijab. I can't speak for that. But what I can do tonight for you is for you to begin to see for yourself. We're going to turn from outward and turn inward about the biases that we hold ourselves. Things that hold us back. The stereotypes that we hold, the prejudices that we have internal, they might not even know. And then what do we do about it? That's what I want to focus on tonight. I hope this is a discussion that starts further discussions, inshallah, on bigger things like racism, which is probably the most important topic, much more important than this. But you need a person and group and circumstance to discuss that. And I hope, inshallah, MSAs, masajid, do begin to discuss. And I'm sure that people are doing it. Alhamdulillah, that's awesome. But tonight, I'm focusing on explicitly, if you want to know the psychological term, implicit bias. That's my focus tonight. Bias and prejudice and stereotypes that you have that you don't even know. Because if you're going to claim that you are all for social justice and you're all about celebrating the month of February, all about putting quotes about Malcolm X, then I want you to know that you have to do a deep soul search on yourself and the biases and prejudice and the stereotypes that you hold and I hold. This talk is as much for me as you. And so, our ability as human beings to survive requires us to be biased. It requires us to decide very quickly, is it an enemy, is it a friend? Very quickly. And so you can short circuit the cognitive function and right away define the amygdala function, which is enemy or friend. So human beings, we tend to do that. From even early age 3, we begin to figure out who's good, who's bad. We start to put labels from very young age. We start to think when you're young, you think, okay, who am I? I'm part of this group, and they're part of that group. And you begin to do that. And once these things are learned, it's very hard to change. Once these things are learned, they're very hard to change. And why do you learn them? Because of the society around them. The cartoon that you see has a message. The news has a message. The music has a message. And you are picking up these things and the stereotypes, these prejudices, these biases, and they're now becoming part of your psyche. And so, specifically racism, for example, it comes about when people want to justify their inequality. Justify the inequality. So you want to keep the status quo, and so you come up with explanation why. You know what? We enslaved the black. This was the idea, because they're subhuman. So you have to stereotype. In order for someone to really treat another human being like that, they have to come up with a theory, and at least convince themselves that this is why I'm doing it. And so we tend to do that with other parts of our life. Now, you see, we live in a very PC world. We're very politically correct. And so what has happened in the last decade is that most of us are not outwardly racist. At least most of us are not outwardly racist. But what we have is implicit bias. Very interesting. There was a study done, and this researcher, she has a very unique test, and you could take this test. It's called Implicit Association Test, IAT. And you discover some amazing things. There are various forms of this. And one type of this exam involves, very easy. What you do is you pair up words. So words on the screen in the computer, words will pop up. Yeah? Follow me. Words will pop up, and the words are either positive or negative. So if it's happy, you put it in the positive category. If it's fear, you put it in the negative category. But the interesting thing is, before they did that, they had faces, either black flashes or white faces that flash on the screen. Amazingly, when black face flashed on the screen, almost everyone had easier time defining negative words. Defining negative words. In another experiment, they found that if an interviewer, if the applicant was black, interviewer sat more further from the interviewee than if he was not black. There was a study done where they took resumes. It was done by Jack DeVito, one of the researchers, in 1989. Okay, and he did a research where he had same resumes, but they changed the pictures. So it was a black man or a white man. They just changed the picture, and they gave, how would you recommend this applicant for a job? How much? Interestingly, when the candidates were strong, meaning both had very high quality, qualifications, then there was no bias. But when it came to medium level qualification, when your judgment kicked in, unfortunately, vast majority and higher number of white were picked. And this study was redone in 1999 and 2005, exact same result. This research is one thing. I could tell you from our own community, from Muslim, because we're talking about tonight Muslim community specifically. We know in our community, and I've seen this over and over again, you might not realize it, but I've given shahada in the masjid to different brothers. And whenever I see there is a black brother taking shahada, or a black sister taking shahada, the takbir level, volume, it varies based on who's taking shahada. And when a black brother is taking shahada, takbir is a little low. And when it's a white, blue-eyed, blonde-haired brother or sister taking shahada, takbir is very loud. This is real. It's happening in our masjid. Studies show that in hospitals, Latinos or blacks are given less pain medication because somehow they feel that maybe blacks get less pain. Let's just study. Even black doctors. It's ingrained in our psyche. Okay, this is going to get even more interesting. There was another study done where they had people come in. So imagine you're a subject of a study, and you came into the room and they said, okay, you have two partners, you and someone else, but your partner is running late. Okay, and both of you are going to give a task. The task is either questions about SAT, like verbal, math type of questions, or they're about sports and pop culture. But just sit tight, your partner isn't here yet. By the way, your partner's name, and they varied the name. Either the partner name was either Tyrone Washington or Darnell Stewart. So some people were told that your partner is Tyrone Washington, and some people were told your partner is Darnell Stewart. And interestingly enough, people who thought their partner was Tyrone, when they were asked, before the partner came in, there wasn't a partner, he didn't come in, what subject you going to choose? He chose sports. Because somehow he thought, if I have a black partner, I'm going to do so well in verbals and math. And you're laughing, it's true. Implicit bias that we hold. It gets even more interesting. When they have these people now go to another room, and they say, okay, your partner is here, he's coming in, he's in the going to the bathroom, and they put like fake bags and so forth. And they found that people who thought their partner was black, they sat a little further from their bags and belongings. You know this. You get on the elevator, if it's a black brother walks in, your purse gets a little tighter. Why? We're good people, but we have implicit bias. I remember, you might think, I'm someone who studies these things and I try to be aware myself as much as possible. Being a therapist in New York City, one of the blessings of that is that I work with diverse spectrum of people. My patients vary from age 5 to age 60. From black, Hispanic, Russian, you name it, all spectrum. Gay, lesbian, it's all a spectrum of people. Disabled, not disabled, all sorts of people. All sorts of conditions. And I have the privilege of going inside their house in some sense. I know their private life. I know what they go through. And so I began to appreciate people. I see a lot of different kinds of people, what life people and their more motivation, what they go through. And we're pretty similar. And so you would imagine I'm someone who studies this and I try to be aware, but I was on a plane. And I remember I got on the plane and I forget, it's one of these, either Emirates or one of these Arab airlines, and the pilot was Muslim. So he says, "Assalamu alaikum, this is your Captain Abdulaziz," and he made dua and everything. I was like, yeah, Muslim guy, pilot, awesome, But mid-air, the plane started shaking a little bit. I said, I hope my brother knows how to work this plane, But I didn't think of that when I had a white pilot. That thought never crossed my mind. Because in my head, a confident, expert pilot is a white man. You don't know that, I don't know that, but it's inside. You have seen it too many times in the movies, and it's too often. And so even I got nervous. And this is even more amazing, talk about Islamophobia, right? And I know this. Brothers wearing big toe, they're not dangerous. I know this. I wasn't on the subway. I was wearing a big toe. Okay, I was coming back from, I forget what, maybe a talk or a khutbah. And I'm wearing a toe, right? So I'm getting little eyes to here and there. And this another brother walks in, also a toe, and he has a bag. And I got nervous. And I thought to myself, subhanAllah, this Islamophobia is getting to me. I'm wearing toe too. I'm wearing a long Islamic dress. And I got nervous. That's implicit bias. These are what affect you because of society and history that we have in this country and in the Muslim community as well. These studies get even more scarier. A black teenager has 21 times more likely to be killed by a cop than a white one. There was a game, those studies done, they made a game. It's a computer-based game. And your job is to play a role of a shooter, right? So you have someone pop in front of the screen and you shoot, but you have very little time. The person that you're supposed to shoot is either sometime white or sometime black, and they hold something in their hand. You're not really sure what it is. Maybe it's a gun, maybe it's a wallet, maybe something random. But you get very little time to decide. That's the game. And the studies found that people shot black images way more than they shot white ones, even if the white ones had guns. automatically you saw a black man and your brain said dangerous, shoot. It's been ingrained into your psyche. Years and years of institutional racism in this country is now part of average psyche. Even now with sexism, for example, they emailed 6,500 professors, and they buried the name in 250 most prestigious colleges, and they asked basically for mentorship positions. Can you be a mentor and so forth? And they buried the names. Some names were of minorities, some names were of women, and they found that the professor had less likely to respond to a minority or to a woman. The most respond name is a white male. The most respond name is a white male. It happens even these biases in our own MSA. Brothers hang out, and I've seen this. Unfortunate. We go hang out, maybe we have a black brother with us, and one brother somehow assumes that this black brother doesn't have money. And I've seen this. It's dangerous, but it's what we are dealing with. It's reality. And what's even more scarier, folks, is that these biases become self-fulfilling prophecies. So they did a study in 1995, and they had, in the University of Stanford, they had white and black students take an exam, right? It's very simple. You do some exercises, do some exam. And what they did was they varied the experiment. At one time they said, this exam tests your intelligence. When they did the exam without saying anything, everyone did similar. Black students, white students did the exact same. Once they said that this exam tests your intelligence, the black students did poorly. Because it was ingrained in them that you're not supposed to be intelligent. They don't believe that, but around them, psyche has become that way. Even more fascinating is before the experiment, they asked, what's your race? And if they did that, that also dropped the level of the grade. This is not new to us, even in our community. What is told to our sisters about their education progress? Just get your bachelor's and then you're going to get married. So the sisters fulfills the self-fulfilling prophecy and no ambition for long-term career. What is told to young black men in the inner cities? That you can do more than this. This is what you have. When I was in the YMCA, I remember it's a program by DYCD, and I used to work with some of the most challenged kids in the neighborhood. And I remember there was this young girl that I was working with, and she was doing amazing in her school. And when it came to apply for colleges, she was only applying for all black colleges. I said, with the grades you have, you can apply to Columbia and stuff. She said, I don't know about that. Everyone I know went to a black college. She didn't even know that she can apply to Ivy Leagues. Expectation on her was that she just needs to do this much and then go there. That's it. Expectation that is put on people, put on our sisters in our community, put on black young men in this country. What expectation is put around these people? This brings me back to the ayah that we began with in Surah Hujurat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the surah, He began by talking about Ya ayyuhan nas. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses humanity, all of us. And then He says, we have created you from male and female. We all came from the same source. We all came from the same source. Very interesting enough, if you go to Surah Rum, and you know Surah Rum because at weddings is often recited. Ayatihi, famous ayats. If you look at the ayat that's right before about marriage, okay, ayat before that, it's about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you from dirt. And the ayat after that is about that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you diversity in your color and language. And is min ayatihi. It's from His ayat. It's from His signs. We all come from the same source. Allah began by letting us know that we're all from the same source. كلكم من آدم وآدم من تراب. Every single one of you are from Adam, and Adam is from dirt. Underneath the skin, we're all the same. Everyone is from the same source. Allah wanted to make that very clear before He began. Just wanted to set the tone. They're all from the same place. Matter of fact, Adam in the Arabic actually comes from the word, actually one of the meanings of the word Adam is actually dark. Because Adam as salam was dark. We all come from a dark man. That's our forefather. Each and every one of us are from Adam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began by telling us that we are all from the same place. You see, Allah wanted to make us humble. That it doesn't matter what socio-economical status you're from. Doesn't matter you grew up in Long Island or you grew up in the inner city. Your parents had college education or they didn't. You had a house growing up or you lived in a studio apartment. It doesn't matter you're from the Khalij or you're from a poor Arab country. It doesn't matter you're a Pakistani or you're Bangladeshi. It doesn't matter who you are. You're all from the same place. Allah wants you to put you in your place. Be humble. Everybody came from dirt. That's the basics. Everyone came from dirt. You see, who couldn't accept this? Who couldn't accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to be humble? Iblis. The first racist was Iblis. I'm better than him. You made me from fire, you made me from clay. I'm Pakistani, he's Bangladeshi. I'm Khalij, he's from poor Arab country. I'm Lebanese, he's Sudanese. It came from Iblis. Iblis is the first racist. If you are being racist, you have the satanic character. That's Iblis' character. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that it's from Allah's ayat. Every single, your looks, your colors, your languages are ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are the signs, miraculous signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you say that this ethnicity is better than this ethnicity, or this skin color is better than that skin color, what you're saying is that Allah is injustice. Allah is not just. Because He made somebody better, He made somebody not so good. You're now judging Allah's creation. When you say that this accent sounds funny, this language is better, then what you're saying is that Allah created something wrong. You are questioning Allah's miraculous signs. Because ayatihi, it's Allah's signs. Allah taught Adam language, and all the language comes from that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said every language, every color, all from the same source. And so when we, after years, especially in the subcontinent, years of British rule, and then you think that dark skin is not as good and you have to put fair and lovely. And the fair and lovely culture that exists in our Southeast culture, for example, when that happens, then you know you are now accusing Allah of injustice. Because you just said this skin color is better than that, or that is better than this. You just accuse Allah. Very dangerous. And this is from Allah's sign. So what do we do? Number one thing that we want to do tonight, I have 3 solutions for all of us. 3 solutions. Solution number 1 is we need to be really honest with ourselves. Honest self-reflection. There is no room for colorblind. There's no room for gender blindness. That doesn't exist. I'm going to be colorblind, gender blind. It doesn't work. You are devoiding of the history. You're devoiding of years of segregated, years of institutionalized racism, years of ideas and thoughts and supremacies. You are ignoring all that when you say, I want to be colorblind. We have to be honest and say we have some issues, especially within ourselves. Maybe we're not outwardly racist, but we have some biases. You have to be honest and true to yourself. Because whether you like it or you don't, your social, economical, ethnical circumstance makes a difference on your privilege. And that's an amazing activity that's done. And I'm not going to do it here because it'll take too long. But if you check it out on YouTube, it's called Privilege Walk, where they have folks line up, just cross-section of people, they line up, and they start the same place, okay? They want to start the same place. Or I'll make it easy for you. Imagine I told you, all of you got 10 points. You start off, everybody starts with 10 points. Then I will tell you things like, if you are not American, get -1. If you grew up in a household where your grass was, you had gardeners to cut your grass, put +1. If your parents are educated, put +1. And we do +1, -1, +1, -1, based on if you're raised in an area that had drugs, put -1. And you begin to realize people, where they start is very different. People, you start in the middle, and then slowly some people go to the front, some people get to the back. Now, then if I gave you a basketball hoop, and I put a ball in your hand, I said, take a shot. Who's going to have a harder time taking a shot? People from the back or from the front? People from the back. They already got a head start. Realize there are people, because of the circumstance, there are already some privileges. Okay, if this sounds like this is America, what about Muslim community? Well, we would have that Muslim community. I'll give you a small example. Who is accommodated for in our masajid? Who is accommodated for in our masajid? If you are a sister with your non-hijabi sister, are you accommodated for? If you are a new convert, are you accommodated for? If you're black, are you accommodated for? If you are a mother with the children, are you accommodated for? Or your accommodation varies? I love this flyer that says it's special arrangement for sisters. Like what? What do you mean? Is that supposed to be the case? Is that something you do some extra work here? Something you put is give me cookies that do extra work? No. What is that? And so even our own masjid, if you are newly religious, how does our masjid accommodate you? If you are not from the same ethnicity as the people in the masjid, how does the masjid accommodate you? How comfortable do you feel in the masjid? Even in the masjid, the privileges varies based on your social, economical, ethical standing. This is real. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us, number one, to be able to be real with ourselves. Number one, just to be real. Realize the issue that we have. Get real, no more denial. That even you sitting here, even if you want this whole month you put up post of Malcolm X, even you have some biases. You know that. You know it very well. Because you can put up all the posts that you want, but you're not going to marry your black sister. You're not. You could put up all the things about, sexism, and you're like, yeah, I also support, women in Islam and so forth, right? But if you're not going to want to be a volunteer when the leader is a sister, you'll feel some type of way. Your ego will come in the way. That's real. And so we have to be honest with ourselves. That's number one. I said today I'm going to focus not on the political, social circumstances. Those are for people who are social activists, social scientists. Politics, not my place. I'm interested in me and you, in our work that needs to be done. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hujurat, He tells us that He made us from man and woman, and He made us shu'uban wa qaba'il. Interesting words. The word shu'uban, and it's translated as, Allah made us into peoples, into nations and tribes. That's the classical translation. Nations and tribes. But the word shu'uban is very interesting. Sha'ab, it actually has few meanings. If you look at the dictionary, this one Arab, you find some interesting definitions. The word connotates is spread out, to spread out. The word connotates to fix a hole, to put back something. It has opposite meaning. So it means to spread out, it means to divide, and it also means to bring something together. Very interesting. Like the word al-hayy in Arabic means life, and also means a snake. It could take life and is life. It has opposite meanings. And the Mufassirun, the linguists, they point out that what's amazing about this word, because of this connotation, is what it's telling us is kind of like, the best way I can explain it to you is like a Jumbotron. Have you seen Jumbotron? If you look from far, you see a full picture. If you go close to it, you see small LED lights, yeah? Shu'uban, we are all individually unique, but then as together, we make up an entire picture. Allah made you into smaller sections, but we make up all together as a whole. So what we're saying here is that there are differences and similarities between groups. What we're saying is that every ethnicity, every culture, every group has good and bad, and good and challenges. And so we can't really judge. We can't say this culture is better than that culture. We can't say that. It's about focusing on what the good that people have. Now the next word is qabail. Very interesting, qabila. It means tribe, yes. But if you look at this in Arab, you get some more interesting definitions. You get the connotation, it means that of your heritage. So the food, the culture, the clothing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us diversity in even our culture. You see, if Allah wanted, He could have made us all exactly the same. Could He have? He could have. He could have made us all exact same. And it would have solved the racism problem. Would it? Allah made it all same. But He didn't. Because it's part of His beauty. Because Allah in Surah Rum, when He's talked about your color and your languages, He began by saying He created earth. And the cosmos. Because it's so diverse. You go into the ocean, if you've been to scuba diving or you've been to snorkeling, amazing world of ocean underneath. All sorts of animals, with fishes and all these things. It's so diverse, so beautiful. And Allah is telling us that our cultures, our ethnicity, Allah gave us all these differences out of the beauty. It's diverse. Why? لِتَعَارَفُوا. The word ta'aruf is also very interesting. That it comes from the word, the ta'aruf comes from the word to get to know one another. But it's even more than that. It means a smell that spreads. One definition is that a smell that is spreads. And so it's a process of us understanding each other. You see, process of us understanding each other. Okay, I give you all these complex Arabic linguists for a reason. Because that brings me to my point number 2. Step number 1 was what? Being honest with ourselves and realizing we all have biases. Number 2, and it's only three steps. Number 2 is get uncomfortable. You see, when we began this tonight, you did this. And in your trust circle, most of you had people just like you. And it's time that we expand this trust circle. We can't talk about, I'm going to go and join a, anti-NYPD rally against with Black Lives Matter, and in my own home, I have my issues. In my own soul, deep down, there are some diseases. That's a problem. And so, number 2 is us getting uncomfortable and getting to know others. You might say, oh, I know others. I know from TV, from seeing things. You know about the culture. We live in New York City, very diverse. We know about each other, but everyone stays within each other. We know about each other. We know the Spanish food place. We know the Mexican place. We know the culture. We see it. We have some stereotypes about it, but we haven't really engaged. You see, just getting to know isn't enough. You see, when in 1954, when the Supreme Court, in the decision of Brown versus the Board of Education, desegregated the schools, they thought by putting black kids and white kids together, black kids are going to improve in their academics. Guess what? It didn't happen. Even though the schools are desegregated, black kids didn't improve in their academics. What's going on? So they found out what was going on is that still the white kids were in their own table and the black kids were just on their own table. They didn't have access to all the resources even within the class. So it's not enough just to get to know one another. See, lita'arafu is not just to know one another. It's not to read about travel book, let me read about the food they have. That's not enough. It's about engaging. You see, how you move from this circle to the inner circle is through relationship and through tasks. So in order to build that inner circle, in order for you to let go of these biases, is you have to get engaged. You actually have to do things together. Actually do things, not just get to know. Lita'aruf doesn't mean just to get to know one another. That's basic level. Number 2, I'm telling you, you have to get uncomfortable. You have to meet a young black man who is into anime. He is not into rap. Then your stereotypes will change. You have to get engaged and you have to get involved. You have to do things together. You see, as a community, in our masajid, you go to masjids, it's lined up with ethnicity. The board in this masjid, only Bengalis. only Arabs, or not Arabs, only Yemenis, only Egyptians, only Pakistanis, and we draw these lines. In order for us to progress as a community, we need to be able to incorporate diversity, not in just words, not just getting to know other, tasting each other's food, I know about the culture. No, it's about doing things together. You see, when in the desegregated schools, when the black kids and the white kids were given tasks together, that their points of the group project involve every member doing well, then slowly the situation started to change. So it's about us getting engaged, not just knowing one another, but actually doing things together. So it means in our own friend circle, when we're hanging out, what neighborhood will we choose? See, diversity is not just in words. It's not just in Facebook posts. Diversity is in action. You can actually do it in your own family. Can you bring in another ethnic member into your family? Would you consider someone from different race for your marriage? Would you, be hanging out with people and invite for Eid? Are you inviting? Who are you inviting? What their ethnicity? What their religiosity level? In the MSAs, how accepting are we of people of different religiosity? In our friend circle, do you only hang out with people who are at a certain level? Now I know, yes, you want to hang out with good brothers and sisters so that you can improve your iman. That's one thing. But when you exclude people because they don't fit your criteria, then you're just doing lip service for diversity. It's not really diversity. It has to be in actually action. And that brings me to number 3, the final point, which is you have to stand up for diversity. You have to stand up for diversity. Bilal radiallahu anhu, Bilal ibn Rabah, was someone who was beloved to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was extremely beloved. And I am to set the stage in order for you to appreciate what I'm going to tell you. Bilal was extremely appreciated and loved by the Prophet ﷺ because he was his muaddin. To the point that Bilal loved Rasulullah ﷺ so much so that when he ﷺ passed away, Bilal was not able to get himself to stay in Medina. He said, I can't stay in this city because I'm reminded of my beloved Rasulullah ﷺ. He couldn't give the adhan because he said, I can't, I would go approach and take permission from Rasulullah. Then I would give the adhan. I can't do that anymore. He went to Abu Bakr and said, oh, Abu Bakr, give me permission. Abu Bakr was the Khalifa, was the leader after the Prophet passed away. He said, Abu Bakr, give me permission. I want to move to Sham, Syria, and so forth. I want to move to Sham. Give me permission. Abu Bakr said, no, I need you here. I need you here. And he told Abu Bakr, if you freed me for your own sake, then make me stay here. But if you freed me for lillah, then let me go. And Abu Bakr said, go ahead. And he spent his life in Asham to the point that one day in his dream he saw Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, oh Bilal, are you not going to visit us? And Bilal woke up from his sleep, and right away he made a travel all the way from Sham, from Syria to Medina. He got there before Fajr, and while he was praying, the time for Fajr came in, and it was time for Adhan. And the Muaddin, maybe he was running late, whatever the case might be, and Bilal got up to give the Adhan. And he gave the Adhan, and when he got to Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, when he got to Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, he broke down in tears. And the people, when they heard Bilal's voice, the city came out. Bilal making the Adhan again. It feels like the Prophet is still here. This is the beloved of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this companion, it will make sense to you now when I say this to you, that Abu Dhar and some companions and Bilal was sitting around, and they were discussing war strategies. And Abu Dhar had an opinion, and Bilal said, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. And Abu Dhar got upset. He said, you Ibn Sauda? Even you disagree with me? And Bilal felt hurt. Oh, son of a black woman. In some sense, he called him the N-word. Or he said, Qawla. Or he said, Abi, Ab, that we use often. And Bilal went and complained to Rasulullah ﷺ. And as soon as Rasulullah ﷺ heard it, his face became red. This is Rasulullah. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, right? The most merciful, his face became red. He became angry. He called Abu Dhar. Abu Dhar, did you curse him? Yes. Did you use his, did you curse him by his mother? Usually, Ya Rasulullah, when you curse, sometimes you do bring Muslim fathers. Did you call him the son of a black woman? Yes, I did. He said, Abu Dhar, you have characteristic of Jahiliyyah. Get out of here. Step up. And Abu Dhar felt so ashamed. He felt so ashamed of himself that he went in front of Bilal and he put his face on the dirt. Put his face on the dirt, put his cheek touching the dirt, so Bilal would step on me. And get rid of this Jahiliyyah out of me. Get rid of this ignorance out of me. Just step on me. And Bilal, he broke down. He held his head and he kissed Abu Dhar. He said, "You're my brother." This is how serious was just calling Bilal Ibn Sauda. And I want you to think about ourselves. I said standing up for diversity, it involves inside your house. So when your uncle, maybe he's an immigrant, and he watches the news and he sees a black young man who was shot by the police, and he said maybe he had it coming to him. He makes that statement, I want you to stand up inside your house and say, Uncle, Ammu, I love you, but that's not true. When in your friend circle someone says Kallu, you and say, you know what, we can't do that. That's not cool. When a group of folks pass by and you say, Abid, I want you to say, that's not cool. Stand up for diversity. You know, it's not just about racism. Beyond that even, we have to stand up for all sorts of prejudice. And I'm going to get a little bit controversial, but it has to be said. We have to be even careful when we talk about our people who in our classmates, our neighbors, even them. When we talk about Jews, people, we could support our brothers and sisters in Palestine. No doubt, we stand up for their oppression. But for you to make a swapping generalization about all Jewish people, it's wrong and un-Islamic. When you make statements like they're greedy, when you make statements that are anti-Semitic, you're not doing anybody a service. Oh, they're all hypocrites. They're not Banu Qurayza. That was Banu Qurayza. Your friend in your class, who's in a biology class, that Jewish young man, is not from Banu Qurayza. Cut it out. That's not cool. And I'm going to give you more controversial. Even when we make homophobic statements. As a Muslim, yes, I have my stand on sexuality. I have my stand. And I could say, in my stand, it's a choice. And you know what? You're judged by your action, not by your choice. You could have the inclination. Yes, I could say that. But for me to make homophobic statements, for me to make gay jokes, it's just wrong. There are brothers and sisters in the Muslim community that are also dealing with their homosexual feelings. And when you make homosexual jokes, when you say this brother sounds a little too girly, when you say his hand moves like this, when you say she's like that, when you make these statements, it's not only wrong, it's un-Islamic. You and I need to stand up for diversity. You and I need to stand up for diversity. And when it comes to inside our household, when it comes to our marriages, when it comes to our daily dealings, when it comes to our neighbors, the community we move in, things we say, it begins with us first. But there's, of course, the bigger part is the community and society at large in America. And so we have to join in hands with the black community, especially the Muslim community. You know, I was talking about this when I was talking about Islamophobia at an event. And one of the thinkers and great scholars that we have, Muslim scholar, he said, when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was in Mecca, his supporter was Banu Hashim. Banu Hashim said, we don't agree with your message necessarily, but we're going to back you up. We will support you. We will back you up. You see, in this country, the black community, the African American community has been our Banu Hashim for the Muslim community from day one. And if you don't come to realize that if you came in the 60s and you're from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Egypt, wherever you're from, you and I would have to line up onto the color fountains. You don't know that. You don't know that if it wasn't for the civil rights leaders and the sacrifices that made in the 60s and for decades, you and I would not have the laws to be able to fight Islamophobia. We owe it to the black community. And so if we are going to be a people that are going to stand up, number 3 I said, for diversity, we and I need to join in with the black community who have been our supporter from day one. Because not a single African American family doesn't have a cousin, a nephew, or uncle who is Muslim. Either Nation of Islam Muslims or mainstream Muslim. They are part and parcel of the American Muslim story. And so, you and I need to get behind the leadership that are fighting for justice and diversity in this country. But my focus tonight was and has been about us. And you can have a whole event and discussion about what we should do, from the societal, from political end, and I hope we do. But tonight, as I've been saying from very start, that you and I need to deal with our own biases, with our own prejudice, in our own homes. In our own homes. Even about religiosity. There's people who are religious versus not religious. How we treat, how we segregate, even that. We need to be able to accept diversity in our community. You know, it's not enough just to talk about Hajj and say how beautiful everyone wears ihram, and that's where Malcolm X, he went and he learned about the beauty of Islam. It's great, it sounds good on talks. It sounds good on paper, it sounds good on Facebook status. But it has to be translated into action. Because the ayat of Surah Hujurat ends, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends that verse that I've been talking about the entire night. He ends by saying the most noble is only the most high among you, the noble among you, is based on your taqwa, based on your closeness and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But guess what? Your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something that I can't judge. Because taqwa ha'una. Taqwa is right here. So I can never judge who's close to Allah than me or you. I can't judge that. And so there is no way of being judgmental. And so when one scholar is said, every Muslim is better than me, and every non-Muslim is potentially better than me. Every Muslim is better than me, every non-Muslim is also potentially better than me. That's the attitude. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. And Allah addressing the entire humanity. The ayat didn't say, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, those who believe. No. Ya ayyuhan nas, people. Allah addressed humanity. So it doesn't matter if someone is a kafir, someone is a believer, religious, non-religious. Every one of them, Allah has put some dignity. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, Allah says. Allah dignified human beings. So when He makes statements about people, about groups, it's not only wrong, it's un-Islamic. And so I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us a people who are able to deal with our internal biases, we're able to deal with our prejudices, so that we can be a people, number one, accept the reality and be honest with ourselves. Number two, engage with people who are different than us, not just in word, not just trying their food, actually engaging. And real engagement comes when it's family. Engagement comes when you're doing business together. That's real engagement. When you can travel together, when you can marry into each other, that's when real relationships happen. And so we can move into that circle of diversity. And number three, we have to stand up for diversity, no matter where we are. Black Lives Matter and the issues in this country is a Muslim issue. subhanAllah, you go to the masjid and you ever talk about this, uncles are like, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. I don't know what this is. This is our issue. Not just racism, but all the different prejudices, sexism that we have that are ingrained into Muslim community, in our own homes. And we just stand up for that. And I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they can allow us to be able to be a people who are able to see the beauty of diversity. Now, as I end, inshallah, we'll have a brief Q&A. Yes, brief Q&A. The Q&A is open. Okay. The reason why it's open is because I like to do open Q&As. You don't really get too many speakers that are in the field of psychology and field of Islam together. And I know that a lot of human issues that I like to deal with, from depression, anxiety to family issues. And so I want to be able to have a conversation about these. So it's open, not just about racism, prejudice, and psychology diversity. That is one thing. But beyond that, inshallah, we can have a conversation about any other topics and issues and concern. Inshallah, for next, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, we can have a question. So what we'll do, is number one, you can write down your questions and pass to the front, or you can raise your hand. Okay.